Hey, fellow Mouseketeers, Teen here to talk about a little news story that's been going around. And I figured now that we've got a response from Disney themselves, it would be a better time than to jump on the bandwagon when people only knew half the story. Along with me is my friend Dalton, the Authenticator.
Yes. Hello, everyone.
And so what do you know about this Abigail Disney thing?
From what I understood, a couple people that worked for Disney were chatting with her, and they were saying things like, "Have you heard what's going on there?" And she asked what was going on, and they told her, "Well, this happened to me, and this happened to me, and this happened to me." And to her credit, she kind of opened herself up for complaints. And then, like any good journalist would, I'm not saying she's a journalist, but I'm saying she holds herself to some kind of ethical standard. She went and tried to verify it for herself by going undercover and just kind of paying attention to what was going on in the park and talking to some people. And she was ticked.
Yeah. They need a Disney on staff. they need a Disney on the board. I think.
Yeah, we were talking about this before we came on. It saddens me very much that that the actual Disney family isn't more involved, especially after seeing this. And I have the utmost respect for Abigail Disney for doing this because, like I mentioned, we have this weird stereotype of like rich kids who just being pampered and not having any awareness or having any connection to the real world or whatever. But she blew that right the frick out of the water, as you know she should. And what I liked the most was she was so deferring to what her Uncle Walt and her, I believe, grandfather Roy would have wanted. And normally I would consider that kind of pandering, but in this case it came off as entirely genuine. It basically came off as her taking Disney, the company, to task for basically pissing all over the grave of
language.
Disney. Oh, sorry.
I'm gonna call you out every time on this. This is the Disney Channel. We try to keep it down there. Hey to Benja Gamer, how you doing? Hola, que es? Swati Cop. Sabaidi Mai. I don't speak Spanish. I live in Florida. I chose Asian languages because reasons. How are you doing today? Also, hello to Dr. Venkman, who wants to remind everybody on our sister channel, Extreme Movie Show, they're doing Kicking It, which they look into action movies and or kung fu movies. And so it's going to be at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Wow, that's or noon Eastern. So that would be interesting time. And hello to Christy Miller. Sup to you too. Saludame. I guess that's wishing well. I'm not a Spanish speaker, but anyway, nice to have you along. We're just talking about the whole Abigail Disney thing and how Disney employees live in poverty. And I myself was a Disney employee during the time where we were told that your job could be done by a trained monkey. Yeah. I'm not kidding. That's oh my gosh, what is his name? I you know, Dalton, I've said my memory has been going, and it's like I know I've got old man brain.
Start describing and maybe I can fill in the blank.
1980s, came from Paramount, was going to go over to Universal Studios, but then got hired by Disney and he saved the company. Michael Eisner. Thank you. I kept saying Michael Iger in my I like combine the two. Michael,
Bob Iger is the current one. Eisner was the previous one who got ticked off and went over to DreamWorks and did DreamWorks thing.
Well, that was the other dude. But anyway, I was an employee during that time around with him, and the higher ups, obviously he didn't have a lot of respect for the lowly gum scraper, as Abigail Disney says. You know, you're an employee is what she said to Iger, same as the guy who scrapes gum off of the concrete. And by the way, Disney does not allow gum in the parks anymore. Why?
Because it winds up everywhere and is unsightly as all get out.
My partner in Extreme Movie Show, his name's Rob Zilla, and he one time did a mathematical reasoning of how much gum and how many cigarettes you needed to sweep up and scrape off the ground in order to do a full day's work.
Somehow that doesn't surprise me. That totally seems like something Rob would do.
It was. He was like, well, you know, actually, if you go around, you figure you have, say, 20,000 people coming in on a slow average day. This is 80s, by the way. And he says, you got to figure maybe 5-10% of them smoke. And then you figure that they're mostly going to be throwing them on the ground. Plus, you've got gum chewers. You want to figure there's a few more because you add on kids as far as that is concerned. And they're going to be spitting the gum out on the ground rather than swallowing it or throwing away. So my guess is if you've got about 10 employees working this particular area, you're probably going to end up sweeping up 200 cigarette butts and probably scraping up 52 pieces of gum off your particular area. And yeah, that's a full day's work. And me and everybody we're just, because we're at a Burger King, and he just interrupted whatever conversation. I don't remember the conversation that led up to it, but he interrupted the conversation with that particular mathematical feat. And we're just kind of like,
to math.
What? Yeah.
I've done stuff like that with like theoretical physics or philosophy or stuff before. So yeah, I totally know what that's like.
It came out of nowhere, but I was like, okay, I wish I could remember the exact numbers because it was dead on. But like I said, now Disney doesn't allow for that. So she did. She calls into test. She goes, look, she understands. Iger's been running the company awesome. You know, it's become the most powerful entertainment company in the world.
Eisner deserves like a lifetime achievement award for everything he's done, because like
Iger. Well, Eisner actually, he saved the company too. You got to give credit where credit is due. Of course, then he tried to run it over the same cliff.
It's called the Disney Renaissance is because for a while there was a good 5 to 10 years where nothing was happening.
I think he did what Eisner did too soon. See, he started, of course, he built Disneyland Paris. It was not the big success that he wanted it to be. And I think he made all of that too soon because they had just recovered. Iger, on the other hand, did it right. Got to give him credit. So
and as a result, Disney is now the biggest name in all the things.
Yeah, I think they own me now too. I'm not sure, but maybe they do. Yeah, but that's the whole thing. She does actually admit that. Okay, you know what? I like him. He's a good guy. You know. But she did call it out. Iger's annual salary is $66 million. And based on the report, his paycheck in 2018 was more than 1,000 times what the median Disney employee made the same year. Disney recalled speaking to a park employee who had to go home and forage for food in other people's garbage. Now, I have been a Disney employee when I was young. I worked at Universal Studios from 1997 until 2009. You know, we had that crash, and I was one of the what do you call it? Dead bodies, I guess. Yeah. Look, I did it to myself. I was really, my marriage was in trouble, and I would stay to finish a fight because I never wanted to leave while we were angry because it would just fester. So I got my points very, very low. So when it came time to cut the fat, I was part of the fat, and I understand. I did not make myself. I did not make myself so appealing at that particular time.
To make yourself valuable enough to put up with the
At that point,
to be fair, I don't think there is a way it could have gone down otherwise, because it was either that or your marriage blowing up. And
oh yeah, well it did anyway. But the thing is at that time I had low points, but I was drawing high insurance, and I got all the perks of somebody who was working there for 15 years. So that's why they got rid of me. One thing I read this, and yes, monetarily it's hellhole as far as working in a theme park. It's now granted, Disney has raised their wages, so has Universal in response, and they've always been like that. If one does something, the other's going to follow suit because they have to compete. At least here they do.
I was gonna say, because wasn't that one of the wasn't Disney one of the companies that Bernie called out for the minimum wage increase?
Yeah,
because I remember that was his pet project for a while, was going after all the like major companies and being like, you should pay your people a living wage. And of course that's a totally reasonable assumption. It's called the minimum wage because it's supposed to be the minimum that you can be paid and still make a decent living, basically.
Yeah. But that's a lot of people, and I am a conservative, by the way, and I do not like some people on my particular side of the political aisle who says, no, the minimum wage should be for teenagers in their first job. And no, that's not what it's there for. Sorry, guys. But on this one, you're wrong. It literally is the minimum living wage.
Yeah.
So I understand that. However, I do also understand that most businesses could not absorb a huge increase. Like what is it now? 780.
No, that's
780, and they want to double it. And when you're thinking of companies like Disney, yeah, okay, I see it, because Disney could probably and did actually absorb that huge jump. They did increase their prices, but Joe's sandwich shop down the street that has 3 employees because he built it up that he can now afford 3 employees. That's gonna make him have to drop some employees if he
I totally agree with you here, and that's one of the points. Even though I actually am far more to the left and consider myself a Bernie Sanders supporter.
And yet we're not fighting and we're not yelling at each other.
Huh?
I said, and yet we're not fighting and yelling at each other over politics.
No, we're probably some of the best people you'll meet, or some of the best friends you'll meet online, more or less. But yeah, that's one of the points where I disagree with Bernie a little bit. Like, I do think that in general, an increase would be a good idea, but I don't know if I support universalizing the $15 thing.
Yeah, it has to be on the terms of the business, or certain businesses will close down. So I understand that.
I think a standard of paying a certain percentage of the profits, or judging the wage by however much profit you're making, would be a good idea. Doing it by percentage instead of a hard and fast 15 everywhere.
Yeah.
Because,
well, I
do also think it is a good idea, though, to start with the major companies like Amazon and Google and Disney and places like that, because they own so much of the infrastructure in this day and age that if you increase everyone who's tangentially associated with Amazon to a living wage, then that's a good 30% of the country that's getting a living wage. Same with
Sir, you have just described trickle-down economics. Kind of. All right. But anyway, I'm going to go employee theme park worker on you. So give me a little space here.
Go ahead.
I'm talking to some friends of mine. I'm at this time I'm working at Hey Venkman, watching Hard to Kill. I got to check that out too if that's what you guys are watching for tomorrow. Anyway, I was talking to a friend of mine a coworker at Simpsons, young lady, and they were talking about the whole minimum wage thing and everything. And we're making this work as well and all that. And I said, hold on. No, you're not. You're not taking the same risk as them. See, when you're a theme park worker, we're making, I think at the time it was $10 is the standard. But I said, we're making $10 and it's summertime and it's busy as hell. And their profits margin is, say, and of course I don't know exactly what it was. So I said, say the profit margin is, 50%, whatever. I don't know. I said, okay, fine. There you go. Now it's September and nobody's coming because the summer people have come during the summer and everybody else is waiting to come in during Christmas time, as far as the tourists are considered.
Yeah.
And the park is
Halloween or whenever they have the next big.
And the park is empty. And now you're still making $10, but their profits are lower. They're so we're not taking the same risk as the company. We're not. I'm not saying they aren't making money. I'm not saying Bob Iger's freaking searching through garbage for food during the thing. It's just that I was trying to explain to them, but that there is a risk that they are taking, that as a company that Universal takes, that we don't have to. We're going to get paid the same amount of money no matter the season. I always told people, get off the rides, go to the shows. And if you really want job security at a theme park, because the shows have an exact amount of people that need to work all of the time, whether it's busy or not. They need exactly that number of people to work. And it only changes when summertime comes around or the Christmas time comes around, and it increases. So your best bet for job security is a show, not a ride, because the rides,
fewer people are needed to attend the rides when nobody's around.
And it fluctuates up and down so often that your schedule is like a yo-yo. You can't really get a hold of it. Let's see. Disney will lower wages during their down season. Nope, not even a little bit. And they do hire seasonal people. Yes, you're right, Venkman. And they get retirees. We called them the red shirts. The older people that came in just for a few months or something. And then, of course, they've got their college program students. That's where, of course, the all my Asian friends came from. That started the whole story about how I love Asian girls. But yeah, that's the way it worked. So that's how I explained it to them monetarily. But then I pointed out, yeah, you're right. Theme park people are not paid a lot through money. I know Universal Studios gives free turkeys out at Thanksgiving. I know we get in for free. I know we get 35% off. And I'm using Universal and not Disney because 30 years versus, 10. So, yeah. And I did actually work for Universal again around 2014 to 2016. So I have that memory a little bit more. And I liked working for Universal better anyway than Disney. But they also do discounts off of the food, off the merchandise, off of hard ticket items. Yeah. And that kind of adds up. You get free meals. Sometimes you get they really do go and they give you a lot of the perks. They give you a lot of the extra stuff. Insurance is incredible through the theme park. At least when I was there, I had great insurance. And
that's a pretty good perk just by itself.
And I'm one of those. I'm not a hypochondriac, but I was taking advantage, and I love getting my teeth cleaned. It's just one of those things. It's if I could do it every month, I would. And wait a second, when I had the insurance,
feel the same way of getting my hair shampooed. It's one of those weird therapeutic things. It's just I don't know what it is.
Now the problem with this, because they do pay a little, you have to deal with all sorts of problems that come with working with people. Protein spills is what we would call people just yakking all over the place. High tempers. My gosh, two guys came to me because they were in an argument and they needed to know where to go, what to do. And while I'm standing between them, decided they were going to throw punches. Like, you're not freaking hitting him. You're hitting me. What the hell? Because really, I was because they were doing that thing where they were trying to hit around me. And it was almost like a freaking joke. It was like, it was like Night at the Roxbury with Will Ferrell and what's his name? Yep. And they would just kind of trap the woman there, except for they're swinging them. And I could have gotten fired for it, but I don't work there anymore, but I did literally stretch my arms out just to push them away from each other. And I kind of hit them both in the chest and push them away. Thankfully we were all almost the same size. They were a little bit taller than me, but it kind of shocked them Like, oh my gosh, there's someone between us. Yeah. And I don't want to get hit.
And I've been here for the last 5 minutes. What the
Yeah.
heck
So,
are you guys
so you
doing?
really do end up dealing with a lot of crap. And
Yeah, no, I again, this is one of the reasons I'm so inclined towards being an entertainer on YouTube, because I can deal with people when there's a certain level of distance, but you could not pay me enough to do something like retail or that kind of job where I'm dealing with people on a regular basis. No, thank you.
I love working at a theme park. I really do. I am a theme park person. And I think it, you know, the good really outweighs the bad. I had more good times and besides, that's a great story now. Even the bad times, in my opinion, have become great stories.
Oh yeah,
but there was one point in time. Let me get this one out. There was one point in time, and I believe this is when I was working at Alfred Hitchcock. This was Twister, where they said we need to teach you how to use. Oh my gosh, my brain's doing this again, Dalton. Clear, those things. What are those called? God dang it!
Describe.
Medical things they in the movies, clear, and then they put them on the heart.
Defibrillators.
Defibrillators. Thank you. My brain has been working like this, ladies and gentlemen. So they said, well, we got to teach you how to use the defibrillator. I'm like, whoa. We're being told this in a meeting. I said, no, you're not going to tell us the minimum wage workers are going to see somebody collapse. And we're like, oh my gosh, because we took a 1 hour lesson. No, that's not going to happen. But yeah, we learned how to use the defibrillator. I'm like, this is freaking ridiculous. So what if you're, I couldn't believe they were doing that. But ultimately, they really did realize that's a dumbass idea. But I was amazed. My head almost exploded when they told me we're going to learn how to use that.
Or in other words, you were shocked.
Look, I'm okay with saving somebody. That's fine. But you don't want untrained personnel or people who just took an hour class at a theme park to be shocking your heart ever. Let's wait for the medical services to arrive. Literally, though, we're around the corner and down the road from the nearest health service. And now I like the fact that they've got health service for every area. If you go through Universal, at least you'll see them. They'll be walking around in their red and white shirts, and they're always in a particular area ready to go where they're needed. And I think that's a great idea, especially in the summertime, because people will know hydrate. So yeah, for the money that you're getting, you're expected to deal with so much. And they're right. A lot of times I knew a guy who was sleeping in his car. So that whole finding food in the garbage stuff, I can believe that. Because if you already have an apartment, you can work your ass off to pay the rent. You can get a lot of hours, you can pick up shifts, and you can pay the rent, but you cannot improve your situation. That will not happen working at a theme park. It's not going to. See, if you are going to end up where you started off. And that's it. So Disney decided to respond to her going out and finding all of this and then calling them out. And they said, we strongly disagree with the characterization of our employees and their experiences at Disney. Well, here I have to say you don't know what their experiences are. And if they're telling this is your experience, don't disagree.
Yeah, no, this is just a shut up, go off to the corner, it's basically the I can't hear you version of PR here.
It could be. I'm going to finish this up, but right away, they should have said we're investigating, not we disagree. This widely reported stunt is a gross, unfair exaggeration of the facts that is not only misrepresentation, but also an insult to the thousands of employees who are part of the Disney community. We continually strive to enhance the employment experience of our more than 200,000 employees through a variety of benefits and programs that provide them opportunity, mobility, and well-being. Have I told you about forced overtime? I am not freaking kidding.
Once a while ago, yes, probably.
My mother-in-law who worked there until she retired, even at 50 and 60, was had to do forced overtime. Yes, as she was working as a at first she was working as a maid at one of the hotels, and then she moved to bakery at Epcot. And they would tell her, no, you have to work a certain amount of hours, and then you have to work over that. So there you go. Yeah. Forced overtime is a thing at Disney, by the way. We're proud of the work we've done to improve the lives of our employees and of the more than 45,000 jobs we've added in the United States since 2005. The men and women who make Disney parks such a special experience for millions of people are dedicated, hardworking, and proud. And I will say this. There are theme park kids out there. If you're a theme park person, you know it, and you love the job. And you will do what your best to make it a great experience. But if they see even the slightest, they will drop you like a freaking hot potato. Absolutely. So that's both Disney and Universal, yeah. And we will continue to listen to, empower, and reward them. That's what this company has done throughout its history, and will continue to do in the future. Abigail.
Okay. Okay. Disney, enough with the corporate speak. I don't give a crap what you're trying to do. The people who you are supposedly trying to do this for are telling you categorically that you are not succeeding in the thing you are trying to do, which suggests you need to be better. And rather than own up to what you did wrong or what you appear to be doing wrong, you're trying to corporate speak them into a corner and virtue signal about your intentions. And sweethearts, I don't really give a rat's rear end about your intentions, as and when the empirical data that we have collected suggests you're doing the exact opposite in a lot of cases.
Yeah, that's fine.
Corporate speak and virtue signaling, when companies virtue signal, it just gets under my skin. But good.
Yeah,
especially when it's verifiably not the case in a lot of cases.
Of course, they bring up the fact that, she got one message about somebody who had to put on a happy face, and that actually happens. And I've done this more than once, where I'm like, I can't believe this. I don't think I have enough money for lunch. Like I was able to have like $2 or $3 in my pocket, and that's the way it went. Like I also did some of the if I could get any extra job, if I could get any extra place to work there, or sometimes I would call it rescuing, it would be or if I could get a spiel attraction, which would be awesome, because they would pay you extra if you had to talk on a mic, and I always tried to go for those. But anytime that could happen, I had if I could get a little extra money, that was awesome. But yeah, there were times when it's like, ooh, yeah, I only got a couple of bucks for lunch. So you kind of worry about it, and then you walk through, and it's like, hey, how you doing, sir? How are you doing, ma'am? Can I help you out? Let me do. But then again, in all honesty, that picked me up. It might be a fake it till you make it kind of attitude when you work there, but it really does work. If you go out and you're helping somebody and you make somebody smile, that can change your day around.
If you draw energy from helping other people, I can imagine that can be that can get you put right, but quick.
Yeah, and it does work out that way when you're working there. And I've had these kind of situations quite a bit. At Universal, and here's something: if you go there and you have a scared kid and they say, well, let me show you how this works, and they bring you to the control room, I started that. I'm not joking. That's not me just patting myself on the back or trying to. I worked at Twister for a while, and I had some kids. We have this. We were a show, so you could go into the control room, not really bothering anybody. I would let the kids watch the show from the control room. It's quieter. It's from behind all the special effects. They could see what's going to happen. And then afterwards, I would take them onto the show floor, and they could watch the show reset. And they saw that everything was fake, and they saw behind the scenes and everything. And that made them more apt to go on other rides, because I would tell them, hey, instead of going and thinking, oh my gosh, that's going to scare me, you could go on these rides and go, I wonder how they did it. And the kids would be a little bit more happy, a little bit easier to check things out.
See now, that's particularly interesting to me because when I was a kid, when I was a kid, I did a lot of research on Disney and theme parks in general, and I was always so fascinated by the actual technical.
You want me to take you behind the scenes, don't you?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, they let me do that at Earthquake. Well, it stopped being Earthquake. We were Disaster at this point, but we had kids do the same.
Right. Okay. Now I know what you're talking about.
Because they had monsters outside. So, oh my gosh! So the whole thing, your role was you were a production assistant to. Oh, I forgot the director's name. He's played by Christopher Walken, and I had to remember that like every day of my life for a long time. We're moving on. But yeah, you were the production assistant. And so I said, okay, this kid's scared. I got somebody to cover my spot. I told the lead and everything, look, I'm going to have somebody cover my spot here. I'm going to take them on a tour of the studios. So I did. And I showed them what all the movies were and what the props were. And I made stuff up and did all the voices I needed to. And the kids were like, oh, wow. And I said, and if you want, you can be in one of our next monster movies. And would walk them in. Here you go. And if they raise their hand, I usually pointed to if whoever was doing the show part who would pick out the volunteers, I would say, hey, you see that kid? Pick him for the ball pit, and then we would make him look like he's in the water. If they were tall enough, if they were small, they would pick for the wall jump where they would jump off of a building into the Rock's arms. So it was, that was fun to do. That was, and that's the kind of thing that would turn an employee's day around, and you just kind of get that, oh yeah, that's great to work at a theme park thing. I know we're way off base here on the Abigail thing. Sorry guys, I talk a lot. Dalton's making jokes, says Dr. Venkman. Occasionally, they're not good, but we love them anyway. Viraja Sor saying, I love this channel. Thank you. So do I. Twister was so cool. Why did they get rid of it? In all honesty, it was about time to go. I've got to admit, when we were operating Twister, unfortunately, they would rush people so often that the doors wouldn't always shut in time. And they were, yeah. Well, what would happen is the Twister, the amount of smoke that came out, the force of the vortex, how big it was, relied on a certain amount of pressure inside the room. But if the doors didn't close before that vortex started, it would never build to a big one. They were just putting out.
Therefore, you wouldn't get the effect.
Oh, yeah. And then like our big fans on the side broke down and nobody ever fixed them. Because what was it supposed to end up? You were supposed to have wind hitting you from all sides. And it was supposed to really make you feel like you were in a tornado. I remember going with Gail when it first opened, and she hated it because the wind was so strong. She would bury her head in my chest. She would go every time, and I loved it because, she buried my head.
So she's not a fan of Gale force winds?
You are so bad. That's just bad. That's bad. And so many. No. Okay. The joke, of course, my wife's name is Gail. Obviously, you guys, if you watched any of the videos of us walking around the park, yeah, that's Gail. She hates being on camera, so I keep telling her, hold the camera, and then I'll be on camera. You don't have to worry about it. But I said, you're literally in more of these videos than I am. You know this, right? Because I'm always holding the camera. But I'm trying to see how many times I could say camera in the 30 minutes and like 3 minutes of conversation. But so we actually didn't have a full show forever. So after a while, yeah, it's time for Twister to go. If you're not going to do the best you can, just put in something. But they switched it for Jimmy Fallon Race Through New York. Oh, Dalton.
That's so stupid.
Dalton, that's right.
Spectacularly incompetently stupid.
It is so oh, what are you doing, Universal? And I went on it. It was okay. It's another screen-based motion simulator ride. Like, that's all you're making now, guys. You gotta put a little variety in there. Say what you will about Twister, it wasn't the Nickelodeon, or I guess now it's the Minions ride. Jimmy Fallon is
Yeah.
the same as the Minions ride.
At this point, it's practically a felony. I'm sorry. Oh, I had to.
You know, I have.
I'm going to-
Before you started
sometimes
telling
not.
that pun, we had 8 viewers, so 2 people dropped out. Thanks to that, I certainly appreciate it. Yeah, still waiting for.
But we did gain an Eric at some point.
Yeah, hey Eric Breen, how you doing? How you doing? Yeah, it's weird being an employee at a theme park, but it is a lot of fun. My problem was I actually cared. I was lead at Twister for a while, and I cared about my employees, and I really did care about doing a good show for people. Because my thinking was, and I know this is just me trying to elevate my job a little bit, but my thinking was these people are on vacation. And I know if I'm on vacation, I want everybody I go to try to make me feel like I'm like the king of freaking Orlando here.
If I'm on a vacation, I want it to be special. So give me all the things, basically.
Right. So I figured, okay, yeah, we got to do the best for them as well. Unfortunately, that's not the way that the higher ups think. They think move them, get them. They're cattle. In and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And that was kind of sad because you want to do your best, and they don't always let you. So go figure. The people who are making the $1 million bonuses don't always let you do what you're supposed to do.
They're detached from the masses that are making money off of. Where have I heard that before? Except everywhere.
Yeah. Christy Miller, I'm semi here listening to this. Well, thank you a little bit. They're all drunk because they're drinking every time you do a bad pun.
Well, there are other reasons to drink.
Yeah, but none that makes them drink so much. That's part of a drinking game for the new people. Anytime Dalton decides to go along with a bad pun. Yeah. So anyway, that I don't know. I guess, like I said, I veer off into my nostalgia stories here and got away from the story. But that's the thing. I think for the theme parks, $15. Yeah, that's all right. I'm pretty good about that because they can bury it. They can absorb it. I completely agree. They should be paying theme park employees because the people on the front line are the show.
Yeah.
Bob Iger is not making your trip to Disney any better on the day-to-day basis. And
well,
obviously,
aside from when he decides to do a new attraction based on one of the million things he bought this week.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. He says, okay, well, we're going to put this in there, and that's great. You know, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, fine, okay. But it's the person that's playing Hondo that's going to really change your day. I had this one. Okay, here goes another one. So I'm working. Oh, Eric just realized he's not subscribed to the channel. Hey, please do. But
no.
Yeah, but the people who are going to make your vacation on the day-to-day basis are the people in the front. If you're making them happy, they're going to do. And I've seen all sorts. My cousin was working in food and beverage, and they would do surprise. They would do surprise inspections. So it's almost like Undercover Boss, where we would be going around. He was able to bring somebody along with him, and he chose me. And we would go to certain restaurants, fast food and a sit down, and we would just judge how's the food quality, how's the service, is the restaurant clean, and we would have to do fast food, and we would have to do a sit down. And our fast food for the day was Wimpy's. It's in Cartoon Lagoon. They hardly ever open it anymore. It was
as in I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a
hamburger today.
Guy.
Yeah, it's over by Popeye's Bilge Rat Barges, which is a rapids ride. So we're going, and we notice there's a girl, and she's kind of like just at the counter, and she's got one hand on her head, and she's looking all bored. And there's something on the counter. I'm like, well, that's weird. Why isn't she cleaning up the camera? So the counter. So she picks up what's on the counter, and we're getting closer, and I can see what it is. It's a French fry, and she dabs it in ketchup that's on the counter, and she eats it. And my cousin's like, well, she's fired. I was like, oh, dude. I was like, you know, so yeah, you do get your good employees, you get your bad employees, you know, but yeah, it takes all types. They're drinking to subconsciously protect themselves from your bad puns. It's good to be known for something, Dalton.
And Eric, in response to your please make him stop, to quote Marv from Home Alone, never.
Okay, there you go. Anyway, yeah, I think we're getting away from the story, definitely with my nostalgia stories.
Well, to be fair, I think a lot of people enjoy your back when I was an employee for Disney stories.
Back when I was younger. Fire Dalton. Not the old man voice. I never had a penny to spend on myself.
All I can think when you do that voice is a mix between Colonel Sanders and Herbert the Pervert from Family Guy.
Yeah, that's not what I'm going for. Just come on over here, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, it just got worse. Good God, boy.
All righty. Yeah, now we're off the rails. So I'm going to call it here because, yeah, so do employees live in poverty? Probably not unless they're on their own. But like I said, by that, I mean, that's horrible enough. If you can make yourself enough money to pay your rent, but you're not going to improve your situation these days working at a theme park. That's for damn sure. That's the summary of what we were talking about before I got off the path. So anyway, thank you very much, guys. Eric and Tree of Rock. Hey, or Tree of Rock, the School of Rock, Tree Rock Creations. So you closed down Green Eggs and dude, I've never been to Green Eggs and Ham. I've never seen that restaurant open ever. No matter how busy that restaurant is ever, how the parks. No matter how busy the parks Island of Adventure has ever gotten, I've only when they were building it, because I was part of the team member. You know, I was about to say goodbye, and all of a sudden, boom! I was part of the team in 1998 when they were opening it. So what they would do is they would let us go in, and they would give us vouchers. You can go eat it here. You can go eat it here. And you always wanted to get the Jurassic Park because that's the barbecue joint, you know, so you could get the beef, the whole 9 yards. And I saw it open, but I refused to get the Green Eggs and Ham because I wanted the barbecue joint. But I wish I did because I've never eaten there. And since the park opened, I've only seen it open in the late 90s and early 2000s. Otherwise, they've never opened Green Eggs and Ham. It's freaking Green Eggs and Ham. Why? It's like right in the middle of Seuss Landing. They should have it open all the time. It's green freaking eggs and ham. It would be awesome.
But no, you may not eat it in a box. You may not eat it with a fox. You may not eat it there. You may not eat it anywhere.
Nowhere. Yes. And there you go. I mean, they at least could have it as a breakfast place. At the very least. But still, even during the daytime, they could have a Green Eggs and Ham sandwich for lunch. You know, and of course.
Well, also, it's not like there isn't a plethora of Seuss-related foods that are certainly marketable. Like, you can't tell me someone wouldn't pay for like a Who's Roast Beast sandwich or something like that.
Dude, I know, right? And the restaurant at Dr. Seuss is freaking horrible. It is so bad. And oh my God. And it's the usual chicken burger and fries thing. And it's god awful stuff. The only place worse than that is Circus McGurkus. Circus McGurkus is one of those confused restaurants where it's like, oh, but if you go to this bay, it's hamburgers. If you go to this one, it's Italian. If you go to this one, it's Asian, and none of it's good. It's confused crap. And oh my gosh, oh, it's god awful. God awful. Searching for a tall building to leap from. Can you make? No, we can't make Dalton stop. As a matter of fact, he's hired just for the bad puns.
Did you miss my Marv from Home Alone never 5 minutes ago?
Yeah,
I will never stop unless Eglinton actively removes me from the live stream. Then I guess I have to. But then he wouldn't be getting all this interaction in the chat, would he? If people weren't sarcastically complaining about my puns, there wouldn't be talking.
Yeah. If they're not going to be talking about what I'm talking about, at least they're talking about your bad puns. So there you go. And I do agree. Benedict Cumberbatch is the perfect Doctor Strange, except for, as I said before, Fran Drescher.
No.
Yeah. Fran Drescher. No. She should play the female Dr. Fate.
Though I did come to this realization. You know what role Benedict Cumberbatch would actually be good for?
Okay, what?
Destiny.
Okay.
In the Sandman adaptation, because Destiny is kind of iconically unemotional. And what is my biggest problem with Benedict Cumberbatch? The man cannot emote to save his life. He's so stiff and robotic.
Okay, well, now way off. And we're into I Love Comics territory, so I'm going to say goodnight. And by the way, if you guys or anybody who's watching this after, if you do like the nostalgia stories, then let me know. I'll do a couple of videos, or we'll do some live streams where we can talk about it. And if you're an employee yourself, tell me your I would love to hear your nostalgia stories. You could even jump on and we'll do a live stream chatting about it. Everybody's got, if you're a theme park person, you have some weird story. I've got a heartbreaking story as well. You see the best and you see the worst when you're working at a theme park. I do believe that theme park workers are underpaid just for what you have to deal with. Oh, just for the heat in Florida. And by the way, I know Disneyland is in California. I'm going to be watching that video to find out where, because I did a fights break out in Disneyland video. And I got to find out where I said Disneyland was in Florida. But all my stories take place in Florida. So I'm wondering if I just went, oh, well, while I was in, but we got to find out. So anyway, contemplating whether or not I want to talk about the, because now I'm kind of in live stream mode. But I want to shut this down before we go on to another topic.
Yeah.
And just make it its own thing. So, yeah, maybe keep an eye out, because I do want to talk about the comment section for the fights breakout in Disneyland video as well. And yeah, anyway, thank you guys for joining in. Thank you for the conversation and ripping on Dalton for his really bad puns. Hey, Frag Minion, how you doing? Big respect to guys in the Donald suit in Florida, man. Oh, hell yes. Yes, hell yes. I actually tried out for that job, and I was not flamboyant enough. I am not kidding you. All righty, guys. Anyway, we're going to bow out here. So once again, thank you very much for the conversation. Thank you very much for joining us and for watching, and see you real soon.
Cheers, guys.